Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Today I am at the HQ of BattleSystems with Colin.
Hey, how's it going again?
Not too bad.
It's been a while, I think.
It has been a little while. So we've spoke in the past, we've talked about Core Space.
Yeah.
We've talked about Core Space Firstborn.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've talked about the fantasy terrain as well.
You came over and we had a nice little videos and stuff like that. Yeah, that was brilliant.
But today we're here to talk about Maladum.
We are indeed, yeah.
So, Maladum, what is it, Colin?
Okay, well, like you say, you've already, spoken about Core Space Firstborn. This is actually set in the same universe. So Maladum is just another planet in a massive galaxy. So Core Space is set in this tiny little area, which is still massive in our galaxy about 1,500 years from now. But the galaxy is massive. And so over the whole other side of the galaxy where, alien races did progress and did get to, there was this civilization, very, very high tech, and, they've got like a big Dyson sphere and getting all their power, but their power is transmitted from quite far from sun to sun to sun. What happens is, over time, set after Core Space,
yep.
There's this area of the galaxy gets completely cut off. And the technology that actually keeps it all going, all the nanites and everything like that, actually then has nothing to do, and it just breaks everything down. The civilization collapses, and for want of a better word, the world ends. And so what's left with is that you have then a civilization rise,
yep.
And then that might do its thing, and it falls and it rises and it falls and it rises, and over time technology gets lost, technology gets buried,
yeah.
But the inhabitants of that planet do survive. Maladum is actually set many thousands of years in the future of even Core Space, and we've got this kind of medieval fantasy world that's built up, but the nanites are still there,
yeah.
But they've kind of changed, they've evolved, and they're in the blood. And they've it's actually developed a kind of magic, and so magic is actually a very advanced technology. As we know, any technology that's advanced enough is going to appear to us as magic, yeah. Anyway. So you really have got a fantasy game which is already set in our Core Space universe, which has a history in sci-fi. But the characters in the game and the environment have got no idea. If you played Core Space before, yeah. You'll see some Easter eggs and some hints of that. Cool. And so you've got magic game based fantasy game based on that kind of in that universe.
Yeah, yeah. I really like that idea. The fact that you can have a fantasy game sort of based futuristically, if you like, because yep. I think it really opens up a lot of opportunities to, yep. to not just go down that stereotypical Lord of the Rings fantasy trope type thing.
Absolutely.
Like it just, I'm surprised I haven't seen more of it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, definitely. And and if you look at some of our characters, so we got a character called Sirio, who because you will see your tropes in there. You will get your kind of dwarf kind of character and your elf, kind of character. Yeah. And we've got a race called the Eld. One of our characters, Sirio, is that race. And they are clearly elves, but if you look at them, they're not just like a Lord of the Rings elf. Yeah. You look at them; they've got blue skin, they've got the pointy ears kind of thing. But if you really look at them, they've got like dog legs, and they've got they're clearly some kind of alien. Yeah. But in this environment, they're the elves, and you get to play as the elves. And and like I say, if you played Core Space before, you can look between the two games, and you can actually be like, well, hang on a minute. The Eld kind of look a little bit like the Firstborn, and there's this evolution that they've obviously evolved somehow from that, or some genetic version of that, over the millennia, etc. But and I'm really enjoying that because I'm a massive sci-fi gamer, I'm a massive fantasy gamer, and so now I get kind of both at the same time, and I really enjoy that mix. I think it makes it a little bit more interesting, and it makes magic and everything a little bit more fun. And of course, having got Core Space over here, and we've which is still going on, and we've got Maladum over here. We've got things like portals and stuff like that, so we've got this ability to kind of cross over and have some
makes
fun.
It super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, in the future.
And it also gives a fantastic opportunity to play a game on this amazing fantasy terrain as well. I mean, Core Space came with some really cool sci-fi terrain, and this has just kind of turned it up again with this as well. So this
absolutely,
is beautiful.
Yeah, it's really good. And what we've done with this is when we were developing it, well, as we was putting it together, we didn't you know, we didn't just want to do a reskin of like the core space terrain. So everything's a little bit different. The doors are kind of proper hinge doors that you can kind of open and close and all that kind of stuff. And we've developed new clips as well to give everything a little bit, you know, because we need like octagonal shapes for magic, and you know, you got to do it. When we first started putting it together, it was like, oh yeah, this looks really cool, but it's still got a sci-fi vibe because everything was square. And so with these new clips, we're also able to kind of make it feel a little bit more like a dungeon crawling fantasy game. And the clips are backwards compatible as well, which is great. So if you've got core space and you pick up some of these clips, because we'll do them separately, you know, you can actually do that with, you know, our other terrain, which is cool.
It looks fantastic. And I mean, whilst we're talking Maladum today, there's so many uses for this stuff as well, outside of it as well. So, and there's all, especially where things are at the moment, things, cost of living and all that kind of stuff, having double use for stuff as well is super important. This is
always the case, and so, you know, we have got the game's great, but the fact that you can take this terrain and use it with, you know, literally a plethora of other fantasy games is amazing. And we've already got, you know, people everywhere from D&D through Frostgrave through everything else, just be like, okay, want the game, but oh my god, I've now got this dungeon for this game and that game, and you know, we've got a whole multi-level version of this that we're working on as well, which is great. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And also the fantasy terrain. When you came over to look at our fantasy terrain that time, when we're developing that, obviously we knew Maladum was coming, so all of that terrain is compatible with this game. So you don't have to just play the game in here. You can play it with our fantasy buildings on a, you know, you can do it on a 3x3, 6x4, whatever you want. Terrain wise, you know, you can go and attack the tavern and take that apart and do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, lots of fun. Looking forward to that.
If that doesn't get the juices flowing, I don't know what will. So let's talk about the game for a little bit then. So the game, if you're familiar with core space, there's a lot to kind of cross over, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you like, it's based on the same sort of physics, the same sort of mechanics, as it were, but that's pretty much where it stops. So from a gameplay point of view, you've got our core space turn-based game. So you've got your characters will take actions. It's very skirmish-like in that respect. So you're gonna be working your way through the dungeon. You're going to be, you know, spending your actions doing, you know, you choosing to attack, and you've still got skills that you can use. We've got your skill pegs, and it's still all controlled by our dashboards as well, which hold everything in place.
I love those dashboards.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got all the little terrain pieces and bits and pieces that you can you know, you can go in and you can search. You know, very similar. It's tombs now instead of cargo crates, and like treasure chests instead of, you know, whatever. So that's all really, really cool. And it has this really nice fast-paced skirmish. So all your role-playing kind of decisions are made between games, so that when you play, you're not like flying through the rule book every 5 seconds, deciding, rolling on this table to do this. And again, if you're familiar with the core space, we don't have a system whereby you're like, you know, you want to attack me and you've got like a sword, and it's like, what, you know, how strong is your sword and how strong is my armor, and you know, I also have this ability that might do this, and you pick your sword up, it tells you exactly how many dice you roll. The dice are custom. You roll the dice, it's 3 hits on it. It's like, right, I've got 3 hits, what's your armor? 1. Okay. Let's take 1 off, you're taking 2 health, and it's really simple. And you've got skills that negate it, but it doesn't mean that we're checking weapon strength against armor and all this kind of stuff. It's everything is designed that I can look down at my dashboard and absolutely know the result, so I can just get on and play the game. You'll see.
One thing I've always found is for me personally, I'm always a big fan of games that have the information to hand, whether it be on cards or whatever it is, sort of some visible way to check stats while you're playing the game, rather than let me pick this book up and look for this bit or look for these stats, because invariably you don't like. I mean, you should play games more often, but let's be honest, most of us would like to play more often than we do. You don't always just remember stats all the time, unless you are playing something all the time.
Yeah, and if you're a prolific gamer as well, you're probably playing lots of different games, in which case it's kind of, you know, there's only so much you can... I know for myself, there's only so much I can hold in my mind. You know, and every time I crack out one of the older games, it's like, oh, where are we again? And I'm looking through the rule book and stuff like that. So this is what we've tried to kind of negate a little bit with our core space, which I think we've done really successfully, but also with Maladum. So it's based on that same kind of mechanic, but it is absolutely built from the ground up. So everything we've learned from core space across the 2 major games there and all the expansions, we kind of rather than just keep adding stuff on, we've kind of built the mechanics of the fantasy right from the ground, knowing that we can do X, Y, Z expansions, and so everything's kind of like, you know what, it's one rule to rule them all, if you like, you know, so that we're not sending your mind in multiple different directions, which is kind of good. Really impressed with that. Of course, it's got a massive RPG element to it as well. Core Space has got that as well. We've kind of pushed it to the next level for Maladum. And so when you are kind of between missions, or between quests, should I say, you really do get that advancement of your characters. So what we've done with these characters, the dashboards are bigger, the character cards are bigger, there's more career on their cards, there's more a chance to put experience even on the, you know, the more basic characters, and what that means is that you can spend a lot more time with your characters advancing them, and there's a lot of things that happen. And you know what, between games, that's when it's great to get the rulebook out, because you can go, right, okay, first of all, we got to advance the characters. We can pick some new skills, and we can then you go to the market and you can buy weapons, and you can like sell off the weapons that you found, and you can trade stuff in and buy new stuff. And there's also a crafting mechanic that we're putting into the game as well, which is really good. So you can craft new weapons and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then, but that's not where it ends. You're then like, okay, well, now we need to stay somewhere. And you have these choices. You've got your kind of base camp, and you could be like, well, we can just bury some stuff under the ground. Do you know what I mean? And we'll just stay the night. But stuff happens in the night. Do you know what I mean? That's how it works. You end up with you know, you might get raided by bandits. Maybe they'll take one of your cool bits of things, or some of your money goes, or one of your characters gets wounded, or so you can be like, well, you know, let's stay in the inn then. But that's going to cost you money, and your characters as they advance are going to want more and more money. So you've got to keep your characters in your party together. You know, the more experience they get, if you don't pay them, they're going to be like, well, I'll take my experience somewhere else where I'm going to get more money. So you can stay in an inn, and that's going to cost you money. But you know what? When you stay in an inn, you've got more room to store stuff. You've got less chance of anything going wrong. You might meet someone who tells you something that unlocks a quest over here, or helps you with the next quest that you're going to do. And you know, you might be able to meet someone who there's so many different things that can kind of happen between, which is really nice. And you get to do all of that, and you kind of before you go into your next mission or your next quest, should I say. So yeah, the role playing element of it is really good.
I think it's a really strong point to it as well. It's somebody who only not that long ago, I should say, kind of played my first ever RPG. Okay. We did a bit of an online D&D session with some of the guys from my community, and I'd never played before. Luckily, we had a good DM who basically kind of coached us all through it. But the hard point of it is getting people together on a regular basis and keeping that momentum going sometimes. The beauty with this game, and it's one of the big selling points, I think, for Core Space as well, is the fact you can play this solo, you can play this sort of cooperatively as well, and I wouldn't say competitively, because it's almost like there is an AI to the enemy, and you can choose to be versus, if you like, but there's going to be times, isn't there, where you're going to want to work together. It's
one of the biggest things about Core Space, and it's absolutely runs, you know, all the way through Maladum as well, is that, you know, if we're playing together, we've got a party, there might be one objective. We're both after that objective, you know. But when I play Core Space, and I play Core Space a lot, and obviously I play Maladum a lot, I'm not always getting the objective. You know, you know, maybe 50% of the time I don't get the objective. But the game's never wasted, because I've gone through, I've searched, I've grabbed loads of kit, and I'm always advancing my characters. And, you know, maybe I didn't do this objective, so I can't now go and do this quest, but I'll find another way to get that quest unlocked in another mission. But so we'll go in, and we might be after that one objective, but what will happen is like you say, the game will just start to beat us up, and it's kind of like, at some point we have to just like stop, shoot it, you know, flying arrows at each other, and, you know, just hitting each other on the heads with swords, and be like, okay, if we don't stop squabbling, we're going to die. And I have actually had, certainly with Core Space as well, is I've gone in with a competitive campaign, you know, where at the end of it there's a winner or a loser. And about 2-3 games in, we've been so cooperative and helped each other out so many times that we've ended up going into the missions being like, I could I could punish you here, but I'm like, you know what, you get to know. Do you know what I mean? You're like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to punish you. Yeah. Because you virtually saved my entire party, like, you know, the last time, and that's a really nice. And you get to the end, and we kind of almost, there had to be a winner at the end, you know, and so we did eventually kind of like, well, we're going to have to just. It doesn't matter. This is business. We're just going to have to go for it. And there was a winner. So, you know, it depends upon the people you're playing with. But,
I was going to say, if you play with the people I play with, people have long memories, and they don't forget those moments when you stab in the back.
And that's the beauty, because you got to think to yourself. You got to think to yourself before you do it. It's just like, you know, okay, it's a short-term game, but you got to really, you know, karma really exists in core space and in Maladum. So watch out.
Watch out indeed. Yeah. So this game is going to be going to Kickstarter initially. Yep. Yeah. And I'm assuming you're planning to go to retail eventually down the line at some point.
Absolutely, yeah. Like core space and everything else. Yeah, we've got. I mean, we've got our stuff all over the world now, in shops all over the world, which is fantastic. Yeah. Because it's really allowed people to just get in and grab it from their, you know, friendly local gaming store. So this will be no exception. Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm sure people don't want to wait until they get to the retail. There's an opportunity to back this and get some really, really good deals as well. So
always.
From a terms of what do you see at this point being in that initial kind of Kickstarter box?
So what will happen is, you know, everything you can see on the table here. So you're going to get more miniatures than we've ever given away before, straight in the box. And if anyone that knows of our miniatures, it's not just like hordes of the same miniature. You've got like unique poses and all that kind of stuff. So we just don't do that. We never have. So you're going to get those great miniatures, and we got some, you know, bigger, more interesting miniatures as well this time. And then you're going to get the lovely neoprene mat. You're going to get all of the 3D terrain, including all of the little tombs and scatters and wells and, you know, necromancer pits and cages and everything else. All the components that you can possibly need. Your dashboard, your characters, and you know, so you've got, you know, and it's not just like, oh, here's your adventurers, go in and play. You've also got additional adventurers that we're just going to give you. So you've got a lot of choice of adventurers, including the miniatures, and those miniatures are actually going to come in and interact with you, like when you're playing as well. So you've got, like, you know, if you're like almost a non-threat NPC on the board as well. So everything you see on this table basically is in the core game. But as you know, if we're as successful as we are with our other games, you're also going to get, you know, all the additional stretch goals and stuff, like little bits of extra terrain and new miniatures unlocked and stuff like that. So anyone that's backed us before, I think first using our last one, Firstborn for example, you know, it's all in the same box. Yeah. But what happens is the difference between retail, you know, it's kind of like 3 kilos versus 5 kilos. Yeah. So there's a lot of extra miniatures, a lot of extra cardboard, a lot of extra characters, a lot of extra hopefully upgrades and all sorts of crazy stuff. So if you really want to jump in on Maladum, you'd literally be, you know, crazy not to back it on Kickstarter. Yeah.
I mean, my first experience with BattleSystems was around the core space game. Yep. And one of the things that absolutely stood out to me, and you'll be able to see, I'll pop up in the corner here, my review of core space back in the day, was the quality of everything. I remember these plastic trays for the pegs and for the cards, the neoprene mat, the amount of stuff you got, the scatter terrain type stuff, the quality of the miniatures. I don't think it's the kind of thing you maybe expect at Kickstarter, but maybe don't always expect at retail. And that was what really kind of like stood out to me.
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of Kickstarter projects will strip a game out before they do it, so that halfway through the campaign, it's then a game, and so they've only really no, we go straight in there. So like I say, literally everything you got on here, you're gonna get straight from the start. And quality is, you know, anyone that's like backed and supported before knows, and like you said yourself, the quality. You know, we manufacture to the highest quality, even to the point that when we're manufacturing, you know, we've got a particular manufacturer that we've developed tooling with, and sort of, you know, the no other manufacturer can kind of create, but even for them, they can't use their normal cardboard. They have to import it from Europe so that we can get it over, because we just have this special high density card, and, you know, so on and so forth. So quality is always, you know, it's not a paper mat, it's a neoprene mat. It has to be a neoprene mat. You know, when it comes to that, it's second to none for us. You know, because it's it's my game and I want to play it. I don't want to play it on a paper mat. I want to play it on an neoprene mat.
Spoken like a true passionate gamer that just happens to be making games as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before as well, my experience was originally with Core Space. I think I might have mentioned in that video that, you know, card terrain and stuff, I wasn't sure about longevity of it. Right. But I can definitely speak now we're a few years down the line kind of thing from there. It absolutely stands up today as it did back then. It
doesn't, you know, anyone that's been to see us at any of our, you know, physical shows, you know, like the UK Expo or Salute or at Essen, that kind of thing, it's the same terrain that we've been taking to the shows for years. Yeah. And it's just, and it's been out there and it's been moved about and battered and built and rebuilt and changed, and people, you know, people always, you know, a show, they're just like, well, first of all, they're kind of like, wow, this is, hang on a minute, is this cardboard? This cannot be cardboard. But after that shock's, you know, gone away, it's like, the question comes out how durable it is. And it's like, well, this has been to, you know, so many shows over the last sort of like 5 or 6 years, and just, you know, and once they pick it up, and they just start like flexing it and moving it and just like, oh my God, this is like, you know, especially the smaller stuff, little counters stuff, that almost feels like plastic, you know. So, no problem at all with durability. And the thing I like about cardboard as well is the fact you can drop it down the stairs, you can drop it, I can have like a townhouse and drop it on the floor, and all I got to do is just like push the clips together. Whereas if you've got something like an MDF build or something like that, it's gonna it's gonna explode. So for me, that and the fact that you don't have to paint it, it's ready to game straight out of the box. You know, spend time painting your miniatures, not your terrain. That's what I say.
Oh, I would agree with that. I mean, it is one of those things where if you want to try and get a table to look this good, you'd be spending a lot of money and a lot of time with anything other than this kind of sort of stuff.
Definitely.
Just that, I know how long it takes to paint a little crate like that. Never mind something like this with the bookshelves, with the open books and the little fountains and stuff like that.
Well, I've spent the last year painting all this stuff for everybody else. I'm doing all of the hard work so that you literally don't have to.
I mean, speaking about kind of spending time, plowing time in it as well, we haven't really touched on the miniatures yet. Yeah. The miniatures are beautiful, I have to say.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I like spending time sort of building your war band, or did they have a name in this game?
Well, they're adventurers, and you have a party of adventurers, And how would you build your party of adventurers? So what would happen is when you first start, you'll be the currency in this game. In Core Space, it was UA, Universal Assets. So in here we've got guilders. Okay, so you're going to be given a bunch of guilders, and you can be like, well, I could probably pull together 4, you know, cheapish kind of or good value, says a salesman, adventurers, and you can and you're not going to have much money left over, okay, and so you'd buy some equipment, and then, or you could be like, well, I'll just have 3 adventurers, but I'll have a lot more, I'll spend my leftover money on equipment. And so what happens is you get your party, you go in, you play a game. You might lose one of those characters in that game, hopefully not. But you know, when you lose a character, you've got to buy them again. So in between games, you'll be like, okay, well, I've lost someone's died, and they didn't make it back out. And so you look at how much guilders you've got, and you'll be like, oh, I can't really. And you look at the characters, it's like, well, he's a good character, I want to buy him or her, but she's really expensive. And you kind of like, okay, what do I do? It's like, well, I don't want to sell this, but I'm going to have to sell my magic sword and do, you know, all this kind of stuff. So you make those decisions, and then you get your new party member, and then you're skint again, so you're sleeping in the woods, and, you know, shit happens, and off you go. So you kind of, your party might get bigger and smaller and so on, but ideally after a period of time, you'll end up with maybe 4 or 5 or 6, and so you'll have some that won't take part in the mission, and, you know, but you might be able to use their skills in bartering to help you between missions, and all sorts of different things like that. There's a nice mechanic as well. I mentioned briefly that you're not the only adventurers. There's others that are going to be coming in the board. You'll get ones that are coming and just start robbing the tombs before you get there, which is really annoying. You'll have other people that are just on the hunt, and they're out there just having a, you know, and that's really nice, because if they're coming when there's a lot of enemies, they'll help clean up for you. You'll have ones that are coming that are just out for blood, and they're after you. You'll have lost travelers who need your assistance. So it's almost like a side quest, that kind of thing. Now, if you go over and persuade those, you can, and you get them off through your kind of staging area where you started from. In between missions, because you've helped them, there's an ability to hire them at half their normal price. So you've got to be looking at, when you're playing, you're kind of like, what is the objective? I need to do this thing. At the same time, you're like, but I need to loot because I need money, because if I don't, my adventurers are not going to stay around, and I can't buy cool equipment. If I haven't got cool equipment, I'm not going to be so strong. I'm not going to get the next objective. But you're also thinking, I could do another adventurer, and there's this lost traveller over here. The objective's over here. He's over here. It's like, let's just see if we can go over and persuade him. Do you know what I mean? And so you go over and you do that. So there's a lot of things going on when you're playing one game, and that's why I say that sometimes it's like, you know what, forget the objective.
Yeah.
Because for me now, the particular character that comes in randomly might be a strong character that you can't normally afford. It's like, you know what, she's my objective. I need to get over to her, because if I can persuade her to join me, my party, I'll lose this objective.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole sort of like, you know, you lose the battle, but you focus on the war. So you've got that going on in your mind the whole time. Yeah. And, you know, you got, you know, like anything, you got to know when it's time to run, because the game will get very aggressive. Yeah, getting your party will grow, it might fall a bit. Yeah. You know, it's balancing your equipment, crafting new stuff. It's a really nice dynamic to use with the party.
There's so much to love about this. I love the quality of the product's fantastic. I love the fact that there's such a kind of an overarching story to the fact that, you know, like you're saying, there's adventurers coming on, there's people looting stuff. I love the fact you've got that fantasy set in a futuristic world almost as well, which leaves things wide open. There's the solo player, the sort of the co-op player, the fact that we can go away and have separate missions and have separate quests and come back together with our little leveled up parties.
Yeah, definitely.
There's just so much poured into it.
Well, we've certainly spent a lot of time, like I say, building this up from the ground, based on the course-based mechanics, but all the stuff that we've learned from that as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've even redeveloped the quest system. So in course-based, it's a very sort of linear, you know, you do this mission, blah, 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 blah. Where with here, it's like you do this quest, you do that quest, and it's like, oh, I can go off this side and do this quest or this quest. It's like, well, I don't really want to do that. I'm going to push on and do this thing over here. But it might be, you know, maybe that quest was to go and defeat this troll for this local town, and you're like, well, I don't really, not bothered about the local town. They can deal with the troll themselves, you know. But later on, because you didn't do that, there's consequences. Maybe that troll comes in and like gives you, you know, when you're really kind of focusing on objective, it comes in. It's just be like, oh, we should have dealt with that troll before, you know. So there's that sort of stuff, and it's like, it's like, well, okay, I didn't get the objective, not bothered about that, and then you go on to the next quest, like, well, because you didn't get the objective, you no longer can do that side quest, and you're like, oh man, that side quest had like a, you know, was going to have a really cool rare item in it, and that item I could really use to help me in this quest up here. So on the next quest, you're like, how can I backtrack this, and how can I, you know? So the system isn't just this linear thing as well. It's going to take you on this little path.
Yeah. I mean, product-wise, there really is. There's something here for everyone. If you're into your RPGs, I think this is a great move from RPGs into kind of tabletop, kind of miniature games type things. If you're into sort of normal, sort of competitive type tabletop miniatures, this is a great move across to kind of give you something that is a lot more narrative.
Definitely.
There's product in here that you can use in other stuff that you're doing. So if you're a D&D player, there's all sorts of things here. If you're into other kinds of fantasy skirmish games, there's stuff here you can use as well. The miniatures are beautiful. Honestly, it's one of those things that, I mean, I see lots of games, and there's always elements of games like, well, that's a neat idea, or there's something quite cool there. It's very rare that you kind of see everything come together in one package and you think, yeah, this ticks all the boxes kind of thing.
I think that's the goal, because at the end of the day, you know, the game was, you know, the game, and all the games are kind of made for me, you know. It's my game that I want to play, and I do want everything. You know, I want to have access to everything. I want to be able to do anything. Yeah.
Well, Colin, I think we've covered most things there. By the time that you're watching this should be up on Kickstarter for you to go and check it out. I'll have a link to it down in the description. So, Colin, thank you very much for your time today to be able to see this.
Good to see you again.
And yeah, thank you for watching.